Only one person in this world can ever make you feel depressed, worried, or angry, and that person is you. This idea can change your life. David D. Burns. Are you feeling depressed, worried, or angry? Has there been a difficult challenge in your life recently that has you triggered or just constantly on edge? Philosophers and cognitive behavioral therapists have long argued that we are in control of our feelings, that it is a skill we can learn to figure out how to actually go about changing our feelings, that we don't have to constantly feel these negative emotions, and that there's something we can do about it. So we're going to talk about this skill, some of the theory behind it, and what you can do to shift your feelings to find more of a sense of peace, or at the very least, decrease the amount of suffering that you feel. Let's take a look at some ideas that help us learn more about how to change how we feel. You can't control outcomes. If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it, and it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. Marcus Aurelius. So Aurelius was a Stoic philosopher king, and he's basically saying that when something happens out in the world that is bothering you, it's not that thing that is causing you the pain. It's in your own mind. Your mind is constructing that pain as a result of what you think about that outside thing. Your feelings arise from your thoughts. Emotional reasoning. You take your emotions as evidence for the truth. Your logic. I feel like a dud, therefore I am a dud. This kind of reasoning is misleading because your feelings reflect your thoughts and beliefs. David Burns. David here is saying that your feelings arise from your thoughts, and your thoughts aren't necessarily true. And so if you believe that just because you feel shitty that you are a bad person, for example, you are kind of taking for granted these assumptions that they're just true because you felt or you thought them, instead of taking a look and examining your thoughts and feelings to see whether they are true or not. Next, let's take a look at an idea. Your thoughts aren't always true. One of the main principles of cognitive behavioral therapy is that you don't have to believe your thoughts. Daniel Goleman. When we are able to take a step back from our thoughts and view our thoughts almost like we're kind of observing from above, trying to take a 10,000 foot view of our thoughts and asking ourselves like, hey, how true is this thought? If something really challenging is happening in your life, you failed at something, you lost a loved one, someone dumped you, you failed at a project, your startup didn't take off, whatever it is, if you can learn to examine your thoughts and ask yourself, how true is this thought? What are some alternate thoughts that maybe are more empowering or helpful? So for example, instead of saying, I failed at this business that I tried to start, you can ask yourself, what did I learn from this process? What about starting that business showed my strengths, that I was willing to take risks, that I was willing to go out and try to learn from my experiences, for example? Labeling emotions diffuses them. So this is a study done by Matthew Lieberman, a UCLA psychology professor, that found that when you label an emotion, that is, when you feel something and you are able to put a name to it. So if I'm feeling really scared and I can at least admit and be aware to myself, like, hey, I'm feeling scared right now. That process of just naming that emotion decreases the intensity of that emotion, which gives us more capacity to think with our rational parts of our brains instead of going into fight or flight mode with the amygdala, which is kind of reverting back to our evolutionary past where we were just, running or fighting right away. And when we shift our resources in our brain from that old part of us to this more rational part of us, we're able to make more interesting decisions and choices in awareness that hopefully can help us diffuse our emotions and shift them over time. Change yourself to find peace. If it is peace you want, seek to change yourself, not other people. It is easier to protect your feet with slippers than to carpet the whole of the earth. Anthony DeMello, 1 Minute Wisdom. So DeMello here is saying, yes, there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens in the world that you will interpret as harming you or not good for you, or that maybe there's a sense of injustice in the world. But if it's truly peace that you want, you're not going to be able to fix all the things that are wrong with the world. But what you can change, and what Marcus Aurelius was alluding to earlier, is you can change how you interpret everything that happens to you. It's easier to change yourself than all of the rest of the earth. And when you can take this approach of learning to identify your thoughts that are leading to your feelings. So whenever you feel anxious or worried or sad or stressed or angry, if you can try to reverse engineer what are the thoughts that are coming up that are leading to those feelings, when you can identify those thoughts, then you can go and see if you can switch those thoughts to something that's more empowering, or asking yourself, how true might that thought be? What other thoughts can I maybe try to adopt here? And through this process of looking under the hood of your own emotions and your own thoughts, you can slowly start to shift how you feel, how you think, and ultimately the amount of suffering that you feel hopefully can decrease, and you can find inner peace slowly over time. This isn't something that can just instantly go away just like that, but just being able to recognize that you are in control of your own feelings, that you have the ability and capacity to develop this skill, that idea can change your life.